It's Sunday Funday! That's my best impression of EMAC. I can't do it as good as him. He cracks me up every Sunday. I am Stevietpfl. I am joined today by LouiesCards. How you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing pretty good. You needed a couple more Mountain Dews, and you'd have been solid there.
Yeah, I probably would have had to wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning like him and be fully awake for a Sunday show. But EMAC's the man. He's running a marathon today. I'm pinch hitting for him, and I'm doing the best I can.
No,
But
that's great. I'm excited, man. Let's get into it.
yeah, LouiesCards is filling in for Warren, who's moving out of his apartment today. So me and Andrew gonna knock this thing out of the park. This is our last show before we head out to Vegas, and we're ready for opening weekend. I know I am. I'm super pumped to go out to Vegas, and the Roto Grinders party last year was insane, and it looks like we're gonna do it bigger and better this year. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see you guys again, maybe meet some of you guys in chat. Uh, it's definitely bigger and better this year with 3 full days of, shenanigans. So can't wait, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. FanDuel throwing in that Friday party and Dasani sponsoring the Saturday party. Just it's going to be epic. And last year was already epic. This year is going to be insane. I'm winning the beer pong tournament this year. It's already locked up. Just give me and Cam the prize. It's over. I know you have something to say about that, but we don't care what you have to say about that. Let's be honest. It's my game, my thing. I hope we play each other round one.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's getting pretty serious. I teamed up with Cruisin'. Uh, I've even set it up in my basement. My son and I, my 5-year-old, we've been playing water pong. It's getting serious around here. So a little bit of training. I'm ready to go.
All right, and for you guys, playing today, make sure you keep an eye on this Pittsburgh-Cincinnati weather. The radar pulled up right now. There's flood warnings in Pittsburgh. At the stadium, it's raining as far as what it looks like on the radar right now. There's a lot of storms coming behind it. Just be careful on this game today. I'm definitely taking out my pitchers from this game. Waiting probably closer to 12:45, 1 o'clock Eastern time to decide what I want to do with my hitters. But it's not looking too good in this weather.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. Pitchers, unfortunately, I like them both in that game. I'm going to have to go ahead and fade them. The hitters might even be guys that you want to fade if you liked anybody in the first place. I was really pretty much off the hitters and really loved the pitching in that game, but just can't do it.
Yeah, I have a little bit of exposure to Ryan Ludwig and Todd Frazier facing the lefty, but I think, to be honest with you, I really just think that I'm just going to fade that game in general. There's 14 other baseball games today. There's other pitching options. There's other top options on the hill. I just think today's a good day to play the fade. It's tough because Sunday they could wait until 5 or 6 o'clock at night to play this game, but I'm just not going to take the chance. I don't think it's worth it, especially with a Johnny Cueto who's 11.1 on our sponsor DraftKings. So I don't see the reason to risk that high price tag with a rain-shortened game or a rain-delayed game or even a postponed game.
Yeah. I agree. We have other options. You don't have to go there.
Yeah, and speaking of rain postponed games, how about them Florida Gators?
That was a great couple minutes.
I'm telling you, it was about 15 seconds. They looked pumped up for that 15-second kickoff. They were ready to play, as Coach Muschamp said. So that interview killed me. He came out after the game and said, if you watch that opening kickoff, you could tell that they were ready to play. And I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. Another losing season. But I had friends at that game, and I was tweeting out pictures that they were sending me, and it was nasty. So I'm glad I didn't, make the trip to Gainesville for that game last night. But with all that said, you guys don't want to hear us talk about rain and college football. You want all the goodness. You want all these picks. And Andrew, give me your top pitcher of the day.
Well, now it's definitely got to be Madison Bumgarner for me. I really thought him and Cueto were kind of a 1-2 or 1A, 1B type scenario. With Cueto off the board, I'm going to move straight to Bumgarner for my cash. Is that somebody you're looking at as your top option, or do you have somebody else in mind today?
With Cueto getting taken off the board because of rain, I'm not gonna, chance it. I'm 100% taking him out. I like Bumgarner, but I think I'm leaning towards Alex Cobb a little bit more than I like Bumgarner. The Red Sox lineup definitely struggling right now. I'm in Red Sox gear today, but I'm not trusting the Red Sox at all. I think I'm looking more towards Cobb. He's pitched a lot better at home this season. And Bumgarner against a Milwaukee team that can hit lefties. His numbers at home have looked bad this year. His last two starts at home have been fantastic. He doesn't really scare me. I love the play. I'm not going to be shying off of him. I just like the price tag on Cobb a little bit more than I like the Bumgarner price tag.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I was hoping you'd bring him up because he's been pitching fantastic. I mean, I wrote him up in the daily pitcher breakdown as one of my favorite plays. He's a guy that's surprising when you look at the stats. I mean, they're near elite for the last month or so. So I really like Cobb today. Boston's been struggling. Jake Odorizzi handled him pretty well. I like Cobb to continue that, and I'm totally on board with that. When you factor in price, he is definitely up there as one of the top options on the day.
Yeah, and if you look at the start that Archer just had against the Red Sox, I think that he will be a little under-owned with Bumgarner and Cueto. People don't tend to check weather on Sundays because, there's not really too much concern on weather on Sundays because they have all day to get the games in. But on a storm like this where there's flood warnings and a lot of rain behind it, it's just scaring me off of Cueto, and I just want to be safe on that. But I like Cobb. I like him at home against the Red Sox. He's a favorite in that game. And today's a rare day. We don't have any games, according to Vegas, over 8.5 over/under. They're all 8.5 and under. There's not too many, high-scoring projected run games today. So today's an interesting day of baseball. One of my favorites. Cobb's a minus 155. I'm plugging him in. And, you look at that, and Bumgarner against a good Milwaukee team is 158. So, there's some hitters for this Milwaukee team that can definitely hit lefties. But, I don't mind the Bumgarner play. I think it's a 1A, 1B situation for me.
Yeah. And for the rest of the guys, who are you looking at? Guys like Ryu, maybe Wood. Is there anybody else that really sticks out as maybe a really high-level play, or are we looking at mainly top-end secondary pitchers?
Yeah, I don't mind the Ryu pick. I kind of like to wait, one or two starts from a pitcher coming back. I've mentioned it many times this year. One of the hardest things to do for a pitcher is your first start back from an injury. You have to get the feel of a major league game again, get the feel of the ball, and it's tough, for a pitcher to have his first game coming off an injury. He gets a great matchup, at San Diego against a San Diego team, so I do like that play. I don't necessarily like his price on DraftKings. I think I would rather just pay the extra $300 on DraftKings for Ikwakuma, against Washington, a team that's swinging the bat pretty good right now. But, this guy has been lights out this season, one of the best cash game pitchers there is this season, and very consistent. What's your thoughts on him?
I really like Iwakuma. Anytime he's at home, I like him. And then Washington's been swinging the bats better, like you said, but they tend to hit lefties pretty well in general. They got Rendon, Worth, a couple of guys that really smash lefties. So I wasn't surprised by that yesterday. Today's a different animal for them. They're facing a ground ball pitcher in a huge park. I think that Iwakuma will handle the lineup pretty well. And I agree with you on Ryu for him coming off the DL. I typically wait. On this one, I might send him out there in a couple of my GPPs because he has just dominated the Padres. Another guy I'm taking a look at is Alex Wood. He's been pretty good since they stretched him out. He made him a starter. He's facing the Marlins. Now, the Marlins do have some guys that hit left-handed pitching pretty well, but they also disappear at the same time. So it's one of those riskier plays because the Marlins have the ability to do it, but they're up and down. So what are your thoughts on Alex Wood? Is that a guy you stay away from, GPP only type play, or what do you think?
I think I'm going to stay away from Alex Wood because the Marlins have guys that can hit lefties: Stanton, Ozuna, Hetch, Solano. Not household names, but names that can hit them. And Alex Wood has been up and down for me. And I think if you want to roll him out, GPP, I guess it's okay. I think I would rather just go down $300 and take John Lackey against the Cubs. The Cubs have been super hot, but Solar's sitting out today, and he's one of the hottest hitters on that Cubs team. So I think you're okay going John Lackey. He's been a workhorse since joining your Cardinals, and I'll let you go on to Lackey because hey, he plays for your Cardinals, and you should know a lot about him.
Yeah, I should know a lot about him. You should know a lot about him. Being a Boston fan. No,
I was sad to see him go.
I think he's great. He's kind of been sold as an inning eater, but I feel like he's been more than that. He's been K'ing at a pretty good rate. He's in a good matchup with the Cubs. I try not to write up or talk too much about Cardinals, just in general, especially on big slates, because there are other options, and I don't want to, be the Cardinal pusher, I guess, especially on a season like this year where they're not really being very consistent. But I'm rambling. John Lackey is a good play today. I mean, point blank. I didn't write him up anywhere, but I do think he is a good play. I think he's the type of guy that, is outside of that Baltimore game. If you look at his stats, it's 7 innings, a couple earned runs, a good amount, enough Ks to get it done. And I think today we're looking at a win again facing Travis Wood. So everything adds up. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, the run support's definitely going to be there. Travis Wood struggling against righties this season. Holiday and all those guys definitely smash left-handed pitching. So I do like Lackey. I like him for a win. On a site like FanDuel, I think he's definitely in play for cash games on as top as GPPs. But on DraftKings, I love him as an SP2 today. And there's a lot of chatter and chat about Matt Shoemaker. All right, guys, I like this guy. I've used him quite a bit over his last 2 or 3 starts, and I'm all over him again today as far as GPPs. I will not touch him in cash games against Oakland's lineup, but this Oakland lineup has been completely different ever since Cespedes got traded to the Red Sox. And Shoemaker, look at his last 3 game logs on DraftKings: 28.8, 37, and 21. He's had 3 good games in a row. One of those was against Miami, one of them was against Texas, and one of those was against Boston. This is a completely different Oakland team. I like him for GPPs today, and I think he presents upside. Are you going to the well at Schumacher at all?
I'm going to fade him today, but just because I like other people a little bit more. I'm not saying he's a bad play. You mentioned it. Oakland's kind of struggling. They, since Cespedes out, a couple injuries have caught up to them. They are not able to platoon like they like to do, which is where Oakland really excels, as they get that good left-right matchup at almost every position when they can. I just think there are a couple other guys that make more sense for where you're going to have to pay for him on most of the sites. So he's a good play. I like it, but personally, I will not be playing.
Yeah, I can see that. And there's quite a few options today on the Hill. I just think GPPs, people look at Oakland and they're like, oh, well, Oakland, don't play him. But I think for a good option, good strikeout rate against an Oakland team that's completely different, I think he makes a good play. But I can see you fading him. It's a catch-22 for me. But is there anybody else you're looking at? Are you looking at on the other side of the hill? You got Scott Kazmir against LA. I don't really like that matchup. AJ Burnett against the Mets. Any thoughts on those 2 guys?
Yeah, I'll touch on both of them. Kazmir, I don't like. He's trending in the wrong direction, if you ask me. It seems to be fading slightly, and you're facing a team that's playing probably the best baseball overall when you take into a pretty good couple of weeks or so. One of the best teams in the league. So I'm going to fade him completely, even in GPPs. And then Burnett is an interesting one. I wrote him up as a possible value play today. He's GPP only. Don't run him out there in your cash games, guys, because there is a lot of risk with him. But he's facing a Mets team that is pretty bad, and he's had 9 and 12 strikeouts his last 2 outings, that typically means that he's got some pretty good movement right now, and the control's all good enough to where he's getting guys to chase. Burnett's a guy where, let's not forget, he's got great stuff. He's aging, he's going to struggle, but against the Mets team, I think he can post a big number, and he could be the type of guy that could win you a GPP. So Burnett, I'm fading for cash, but for GPP, I think I'm going to roll a couple lineups out there just in case he decides to go crazy again.
I think you just nailed everything that I was going to say about AJ Burnett. So I think we're on the same page with AJ Burnett today. GPP play, don't really love him in cash games. Is there anybody else at starting pitcher that you're looking at? Nothing really stands out to me. I'm going to throw it over to you, and if you have anybody else.
No, I really don't. I mean, I think we covered pretty much everybody. If you're feeling frisky and you want a late game pitcher, maybe you throw out Danny Duffy in a GPP. I don't know. I don't really like that play, but I think we covered it, man.
So just something a little crazy. Adam Dunn just got traded to the Oakland Athletics.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay.
I just got a text from ESPN about it, so I thought that was fun. But, yeah, Danny Duffy, I think he gets the run support tonight. TJ House has really struggled against righties, and there's a bunch of righties in that Royals lineup that can hit lefties. So I think Duffy gets the run support and picks up the win, but I don't know how much upside he has. So maybe as an SP2 if you need to save some money, but I don't really love the play as well.
Yeah. I'm wondering what the status is with John Jaso then. Are they worried about him not coming back? Is that why they go get it done, you think? Or another lefty or a big lefty bat?
I don't know, because they really don't have that many righties in their lineup. You would think they'd go out and get a righty, but
yeah,
maybe they just want another big stick trying to fill in for Cespedes. But I don't know if Adam Dunn's the way to go with that. But, you get a righty on the hill,
Yeah.
expect Adam Dunn. So they kind of just need somebody to play first base. But Adam Dunn?
Yeah, I don't know. I see him as a DH, maybe where Jaso was hitting. I don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting as well. Let's swing it on over to catcher. One of my favorite catchers today is not in the lineup, so I was kind of sad not to see Brian McCann facing another lefty. He's been smashing lefties this season, so it made me sad. And he's always underowned against lefties. But, with Devin Mesoraco, I'm not going there because of the weather situation. Who are you looking at catcher today?
I really like Yachty. The Cardinal lineup isn't out yet. I'm not sure how they're going to – typically I'd say Yachty's in. He's Yachty. He plays all the time. But with the injury and all that stuff, I don't know how they're going to – I haven't seen anything that he's not going to be in, but – you just never know. So typically he's a guy you can lean on to be in no matter what. I like Yachty as my top play if he's playing. Facing Wood, he really hits lefties well. I think the lineup's starting to kind of show signs of life. So he'll be put in positions where he can, drive in some runs. Outside of him, I like guys like Castro, Martinez, the typical guys. But my top guy is Yadier Molina.
Yeah, I don't mind Molina for cash games today. I think he's one of the safest plays if he's in the lineup. I don't know how much upside he really has coming off of an injury for GPPs today, but catcher position looks like it's going to be pretty thin today, so I don't hate that play. I might even roll him out in some GPPs today. Are you looking at Castro against Nick Martinez at all? Nick Martinez is not a very good pitcher. Castro has home runs in 2 of his last 3 games. Batting 5th for a Houston offense that should be able to put up some runs today.
Yeah, absolutely. I put him in as my GPP play today on the daily plays. I think he's a great GPP play. And even today, I don't mind him in cash. Even though he's really inconsistent at times, he can hit you a home run at a position that is somewhat limited with that, and Martinez is just not a good pitcher. So I think as bad as Martinez is, it bumps Castro into even a cash play option for you today.
Yeah, but with Molina being 3,200 on our sponsor DraftKings, I think it's pretty easy to use him today. Mm-hmm. Castro is 3,500, so a cheap GPP option. A site-specific play on a DraftKings because they have late swap. I really like Salvador Perez today. I wouldn't use him on FanDuel. I don't use 8 o'clock catchers on FanDuel on Sundays. Just too much to worry about, and it's tough because you can't swap him out if he's not in the lineup, and you don't want to zero out of a late game player. So I like Salvi. I like him a lot on DraftKings where you can swap him out if he's not going to be in the lineup. That lineup should be out where you could use, I know there's like a 5 o'clock game today, so you could use one of those 5 o'clock catchers, maybe like an Evan Gaddis or, even Saltalamacchia if Salvador Perez is not in the lineup. But that, like I said, that's a DraftKings play for me today.
Yeah, I like that Sal Perez option. I mean, if you look at TJ House, he's giving up a WOBA of like 388, I think it is, to right-handed bats. That's pretty bad. So it matches, guys like Butler, Sal Perez, even Gordon, who hits lefties well. That whole lineup kind of looks like it might be a good option tonight for a late night sneaky stack type option.
Yeah,
another guy,
too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another guy that I think is worth mentioning, batting fourth today, is Steven Vogt. How do you say his last name? Is it Vogt? I hear people say it different ways. I really don't even know, to be honest. I've never really paid attention.
We believe in Steven Vogt.
Is it Vogt? All right. So I'll stop saying Vogt. Batting fourth today, he makes a lot of sense to me. Facing Schumacher, if you're fading Schumacher. So if you don't want to obviously take Schumacher and Vogt, but I think he's a guy that tends to be lower owned, hitting in a good spot against a pitcher that I think a lot of people will be on. So that's a pretty good GPP play to me.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I don't know how much I'm going to be targeting Schumacher the way he's been pitching, but if you want to go contrarian and low owned, I don't hate that at all. One other name kind of batting down in the order, which I don't really love, but Cervelli for the Yankees gets a good matchup against J.A. Happ in a big-time hitter's ballpark at Rogers Center. So a GPP option, I don't love where he's batting, but I will take a lefty-righty matchup at Rogers Center with a guy that struggles against righties for GPPs.
Yeah, and even for relief, Cervelli, he hits righties better than he hits lefties, believe it or not. I'm pretty sure that's still rings true, but I like that play as a punt option. I mean, he's super cheap everywhere. So if you have other bats in key spots, he's a great play to plug in there and with good opportunity, like you said, in Rogers Center. So like the play.
Yeah, and is there anybody else at catcher you're looking at today?
No, I don't think so. You're either going Molina, Castro, or you're punting pretty much, or in a GPP you're playing a guy like Vogt, Perez, stuff like that. So there's not too many other guys that really stand out.
Yeah, IP option. Evan Gaddis is always a threat to go deep, so I don't hate that play. Make sure he's in the lineup. Another DraftKings play. Catcher's tough today. If you're playing on a site like FanDuel, definitely have a catcher that's in the lineup before lineup lock because you don't want to get burned like a lot of us got burned with Will and Rosario a couple weeks ago. You just don't want to get burned on something like that. So have a catcher that's in the lineup on FanDuel, DraftKings, big time, swap options. So you can pretty much roll out anybody in that. Just make sure you have enough money to cover your swap. So let's swing it on over to first base where Ryan BVP gets Dylan Gee, and he's one of my plays for GPPs today. I love his BVP. I like, he's hitting the ball pretty well right now. So Ryan Howard, BVP, GPP, play today.
There you go. I was hoping that you'd bring some BVP to this show since Emac and I typically don't. Emac tries to, look up some guys, but he's not as passionate as you are about BVP. So, and with your success, I got to say, you and Tommy have really changed my mind. I'm not saying I look at it every day, but I'll tell you what, if I have a tiebreaker type situation, I do go to the BVP well nowadays. So
here it is. He's 9 for 23 with 6 home runs off Dylan Gee.
That's not bad. I mean, I guess he could have 7 home runs, right?
Yeah, he could, but an OPS of 1.634. All the Ryan Howard for some GPP action tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, even in a small sample. I'm going to go ahead and say that he really sees the ball well off of E's hand. So that's a good matchup. I like to play. Um, for me, my top guy is Freddie Freeman, based in Eovaldi, who has like a 6 ERA since the All-Star break. Freeman hits righties very well. He's got like a 400 WOBA and over 900 OPS and well over 800 plate appearances dating back to last year. He's a really consistent hitter against right-handed pitching, and Eovaldi is fading fast. So he's my top guy. You got anybody else besides BVP Howard, or are you rolling him everywhere?
Oh, I'm definitely not rolling him everywhere. I like his BVP, but I'm not rolling him everywhere. So I think some GPP options today. A guy like Lucas Duda against AJ Burnett. We do like Burnett's strikeout potential. We like his GPP option. I like Duda, on the flip side of that GPP thing. I think Duda, 400 weighted on base against righties this season. Definitely an option to go deep any day of the week. What about E5 against McCarthy? Home run McCarthy, at Rogers Center. He's pitched a lot better since joining, the Yankees, but you still got to look at his home run to lefties and righties this year.
Yeah, I think that's a good matchup. Going back to Duda real quick, I think that's a great play in a GPP. If you think Burnett is a blow-up risk, which he is, then Duda makes perfect sense. He's been crushing the ball since they sent Ike Davis out. So I like that. Going back to E5, I think that's a good play. Brandon McCarthy has been unreal, really, for the Yankees. His stats showed earlier in the season that he's pitching better than his ERA, and he's getting a little unlucky. And now it's starting to catch up to where he's still pitching the same, but he's catching those breaks. He's getting better defense behind him. So McCarthy is a tough play or pitcher to face right now, but E5 and those guys, I mean, they can hit it out against anybody, especially at home. And McCarthy is susceptible to a home run, so I like that play. What do you think about Crush Davis today?
Yeah, Crush is crushing again. So he's back up in 5 spot, I think is where I've seen him.
Yep, facing Ricky Nolasco. He's a guy that is typically pretty streaky. Even last year when he was hitting home runs, he'd hit them in bunches. He'd go on a tear for a week, take a couple weeks off, do it again, rinse, repeat. So I think right now we're getting him in a hot streak. It might be, never know when it's the tail end of it, but even still, he seems to be seeing the ball better right now. I like him as a GPP option today.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I don't hate that play at all. Anybody can hit off of Ricky Nolasco. Let's be honest, this guy is not one of the best pitchers in the baseball, so let's all pick on him a little bit today. Orioles team that's hitting the ball very well right now, so I do like that. There's some questions in chat about Mark Teixeira. I don't hate the play against the lefty J.A. Happ at Rogers Center. I like Teixeira a little bit more when he's on the left side of the plate, but I don't hate the play against J.A. Happ.
For me, I don't know. I guess I'm on the fence. I have a bunch of other guys way above him. Tex is a guy that has plenty of upside anytime you play him, and he seems to be lower owned. It was only a couple of years ago. I've been playing DFS for quite some time. He used to be one of the highest first basemen every week, and if you look at his stats, they're not that bad this season. So he's got the power numbers. Certainly a great GPP play. I don't know about cash game, but with some of the other guys out there, more consistent. I like his upside though.
Yeah, I like his price. I think that would be one of the selling points on me today. 4K on DraftKings today, super cheap. Not really too many options around him. I do like Billy Butler at 4,200 though, so I don't know. I think I might go Billy Butler over Teixeira today. But on a site like FanDuel, he's 2,800. For a GPP home run upside guy, 2,800 is super cheap. So I can see the Teixeira play, but not a guy that I'm going to plug in, across the board. I'm just kind of waiting to see price and stuff like that. But speaking of Billy Butler, you mentioned him a little bit earlier when you were talking about TJ House. I think we're both agreeing that Billy Butler is a good play today. I like him a little bit more for GPPs just because he can go 0 for 4 in United of the Week. But are you on Billy Butler?
Yeah, I like him as a GPP play today, or even as a if you're. I don't typically do a punt value at first base, especially today with some of the options. But if you're one of those guys that does that to be a little bit contrarian and get the lower ownership, Billy Butler makes a lot of sense to me today. I mentioned TJ House. I misspoke. It's not a 388 WOBA, it's a 383 WOBA against righties. So he is allowing righties to do some damage against him. So Billy Butler makes a lot of sense to me today. He should have a lower ownership and has been playing a lot better recently. Earlier in the year, I was fading him even in the great matchups. Even when the stats said, go Billy Butler, I was fading him because he just looked awful at the plate. Seems to be picking up a little bit more lately. So, yeah, I like that play.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't, there's not too much to love today because all the games with low over unders, but in a matchup like that, the late game guys are always super under owned, and on a site like DraftKings where you can swap them out, I think that Billy Butler makes for a good play today. So, with that said, we're cruising along here. We're cruising on to second base. We're cruising on to a position that there's just one guy that is really standing out to me today, and it's Jose Altuve. If Dean was on the show, he'd be going crazy about Jose Altuve, and for good reason. Nick Martinez has given up a 343 weighted on base to righties this season. Altuve is always a threat to steal bases and easier to steal off of a righty than a lefty. So Altuve has unlimited upside for me today.
Yeah, I agree on Altuve. The only problem with him is now everybody is using him, and I mean that's okay if you're playing cash games. Go with the crowd. I'm completely okay with that. I just don't know if he's the type of guy where I'm going to put him everywhere. I think we have a couple of other riskier options that have pretty good matchups in Dozier and Utley and guys like that, where we're probably going to see him lower owned because Altuve is in such a good spot with Martinez. I completely agree. Altuve is a great play. I actually even avoided writing him up because I just figured everybody else is going to be on him, so why put him in there? I put a couple other guys in my daily plays today. I was surprised I didn't get called out on that because typically there's always one or two comments that say, "Hey, what about this guy?" And Altuve seems to be an obvious one here, but there's a couple other punt guys I like, and I have to look at the lineups. I'm sorry, so if they're not in, but Jeff Baker for the Marlins makes a lot of sense if you're punting. I consider him a value play. Most people would consider him a punt, considering he's only got 3 or 4 home runs on the year. And then Omar Infante, another late game play that I like for KC. I already mentioned, the stats. I think the more I talk about it, the more I like the Royals tonight. So I'll probably run them out there in a GPP or two as a stack on DraftKings today.
Yeah, and Alfonte hasn't been playing too much because of a shoulder injury, but he played yesterday. I expect him to play today. I like that play a lot. He's really my value guy today. I think I'd lean Afonte over Baker. I love the Baker play. I just like the matchup a little bit more for Afonte, and I think he's a little bit cheaper on some sites. But yeah, either one of those guys for a value option. I'm with you on Baker. I don't consider him a punt when he faces lefties. I consider him a value play. He has good upside in his career. He smashed lefties, so I don't hate that play at all. Is there really anybody else? Second base is pretty shy today. There's not a lot. One guy that's standing out to me that is absolutely smashing lefties this season is Martin Prado. You can play him on second base or third base on DraftKings today. Just been insane against lefties. Gets a great matchup against J.A. Happ in a hitter's ballpark. Second, third base eligible most spots, but DraftKings you can play in both places. I haven't plugged into my cash lineups at second base.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. I was holding off for third base for him because he typically has third base eligibility everywhere. So he does, like you said, on DraftKings have second base. Great play. I was really surprised when they pulled him over and they weren't hitting him up in a lineup originally versus left-handed pitching. Didn't make any sense to me. They finally got smart and they move him up. He's been hitting the ball the whole time, but now he's in production at bats. So. Or production opportunities. I really like that play today.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to spoil your third base play. It's just there's not too much at second base, so I like him at second base on DraftKings today.
Yeah, yeah. And as I mentioned, I wrote up Dozier and Utley. I like both of them guys today. I think they make sense. Believe it or not, second base seems to be a pretty loaded position today. It's typically one that try to find a mid-tier guy or maybe even a lower-tier guy in a good spot. But back to Baker, just remember, guys, they move him up to the two-hole normally, hitting right in front of Stanton lately. So when they're facing lefties, and I know I was pimping Wood out a little bit earlier, but if you're not on Wood, if you're not on Alex Wood, then you probably need to take a look at Baker if you're punting second base.
Oh, bring on the chat. You mentioned Wood. Uh-oh. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but yeah, I'm right there with you on Dozier. I like him for GPPs today, and Chase Utley is always in play when there's a righty on the hill. So I like those plays as well. If I had to pick one of those two, I'd probably go Utley. I like Dozier for GPPs, but he's just been so boomer bust this year. And Utley batting in the 3 spot, I really think that he has a good game today. So I'd lean him a little bit over Dozier. Don't hate either one of those guys though. Let's swing it on over to shortstop and sell me on somebody. That's how I feel about shortstop right now.
Sell you on somebody at shortstop?
Yep, sell me on somebody at shortstop.
How about Hanley? What do you think about that? I mean, we got Eric Stoltz on the mound for the Padres. Hanley can hit it out of any park. I mean, he already hit it out of Petco the other day. He did have that weird trip over first base where he pretended like he was hurt, but I think he was really embarrassed. I like him today. It seems to make sense. He has like a 436 WOBA and 1.023 OPS versus left-handed pitching since last year. That's pretty dang good. That's, I mean, elite, upper elite. So Hanley seems to be a guy that has, for whatever reason, faded to the background. It used to be, who are you going to play, Hanley or Tulo, Hanley or Tulo, and now it just seems like, oh, let's just punt shortstop. So if you're looking to spend up and a guy that can get you the home run or two, or even multi-home run upside, even at Petco, Hanley's your guy. Johnny Peralta doesn't seem like a bad play against Travis Wood. He's got home run upside. For the longest time, he was the only guy hitting home runs for St. Louis. So I like that play. And then you got your 2 punt guys that everybody's playing, Zach Walters and Cliff Pennington, right? So you got options at shortstop. You can pay up with Hanley. You got a mid-tier guy in Peralta, and you got 2 lower-end guys in Walters and Pennington that I think any of those 4 guys you are okay with playing.
Yeah, Peralta and Hanley are my top 2 guys today. Waiting to see the lineup for the Dodgers, but Peralta batting in the 4 spot against the lefty. I like that play a lot today. Like you said, he was one of the only ones hitting home runs for the Cardinals, most of the season. So I like Peralta. Walters, I don't know if I'm going to go to the well on Walters today. Danny Duffy's a ground ball pitcher. Walters is a super boomer bust play. Don't hate it, but his prices come up, and I'd rather just pay up a little bit more for a Peralta or, Hanley Ramirez is super cheap across the industry right now. So I don't hate either one of those guys. I'd rather just probably pay up for one of those guys. You do bring up a good point, though. Cliff Pennington against a lefty is always a good value play. We're not even going to call him a punt play, so all a good, all good for me on Pennington today.
Yeah, I just will mention that Walters is a guy, if you look at his overall stats, it's like, oh, what is this guy doing? But he's a lefty. Whenever they're facing a lefty, that's the only way you play him. Even dating back to the minors, I looked him up. He's a guy that's hit lefties well his whole career through the minors, even in the majors, he's hit lefties well. If you look, he's one of those guys. You look at the overall stats, you're not overly impressed, but if you look at the splits, it looks a lot better. So I agree. It's another tough matchup, but hey, he's a punt value, right?
Yeah, punt value sounds good to me. Why not? Always. But
Yep.
Swinging on over to third, the hot corner, the keystone non-position. But third base for me today is, hey, I got one for you. Chris Davis.
Oh, he is third base eligible on DraftKings. That's a good play. I mean, I'd even consider that a cash game third base play today. It's a position where I tend to pick a guy that's a little more risky with the home run upside, and there isn't really a guy that describes or that I just described better than Chris Davis, really. So you have Adrian Beltre that's available, against Keuchel. The Rangers are surprisingly good against left-handed pitching. Keuchel's actually been good. I wrote up that he's been struggling, and I was wrong. I don't know what I was up pretty late, so I don't know what I was looking at. But he's been pretty good. He's been kind of unlucky recently, really. But anytime the Rangers face a lefty, I like to get Beltre in there if I can afford him. So he's probably my top guy. I like Davis. I think Prado is a guy we touched on. He was one of my favorite third basemen of the day. And then if you're going to pay down, I like guys like Gillespie and even David Freese today. So.
Yeah, those plays don't bother me at all. Beltre is probably my top cash game play anytime he faces a lefty. He's just been so consistent against lefties this season. At 4,400 on DraftKings, he's not going to break the bank, so I don't hate that play. We mentioned Martin Prado at 4,300. I think he's a good cash game play as well. I even don't mind playing him in GPPs, but one guy I'm going to throw out at you, and it's not the best matchup, but Aramis Ramirez against Madison Bumgarner. Ramirez has a 462 weighted on base against lefties this season. Comes in swinging the bat pretty well. Madison Bumgarner's stats, haven't been terrible at home, but haven't been great, and we did mention his last 2 or 3 starts at home have been lights out, but 293 weighted on base against righties this season. I think Ramirez is a GPP play today.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fading Bumgarner today, I'd say go for it. Ramirez and a couple, or all 3 of the outfielders have good overall stats against lefties. They have struggled pretty bad this year against lefties as a whole, the Brewers as a whole. Striking out at a pretty high rate. They have not looked good. I watched a good amount of the PV start last night, and when PV's making you look that bad, I just question, what's Bumgarner. I know it's a lefty and a righty, so it's hard to really compare.
Ugh.
But did you watch any of that game? It's unbelievable. I thought maybe they had a blindfold on. I don't know what the heck they were swinging at on some of those pitches, but hey, credit PV. Must have found some elusive aging pill. So.
Yeah, I just PV, but I'm glad I didn't watch any of that game. It would have made me mad. But anyway, yeah, I know that the Brewers as a whole, like you said, have struggled against lefties. But some of these guys individually, like Chris Davis and Ramirez and Lucroy and Braun, they can hit lefties. So I wouldn't be too high on your boy Bumgarner. Like you said, though, PV shut them down last night. What is Bumgarner going to do tonight? So another option at third base that I'm always going to be on when he's at home is Kyle Seager. His numbers are just outstanding at home this season. I don't really know why, but this guy is just smashing righties at home. Tanner Roark is not one of the worst pitchers on the board today, so Seager might be a little under-owned, but anytime this guy faces a righty at home, he's in play for me.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before the show. For whatever reason, Seager he turns into a power hitter in Seattle. It makes no sense. I mean, he's got the pop anywhere. Don't get me wrong. Facing Tanner Roark today, not a bad matchup. Roark's been actually pretty good against lefties. Holding him to a 293 WOBA against. So I think Seager, like you said, is almost always in play at home. I just think that there's other options today. Prado stands out to me above a guy like Seager. So it's one of those things where I have trouble, coming from Prado and going to a Seager. But in a GPP, I'm totally on board with Seager today.
All right, yeah. Let's. Is there anybody else you're looking at third base?
Not really. I mean, With pricing and everything, no. I think we pretty much covered the guys that make the most sense. We gave them enough guys where they can kind of make up their own decision and roll with it. I will say that I just barely mentioned it, but Freeze kind of seems like a pretty sneaky play to me. When you consider he's got a 370 WOBA against left dating back to last season, his OPS is over like 850, and Casimir's fading. So, and he's cheap. So if you're punting third base, you're not going with the Beltres, the Davis, the Prados, all these guys that really have a good matchup. Freeze also has a good matchup, and he's cheaper. So.
All right, yeah. Anytime he faces a lefty, Freeze is in play. He's a career 300-plus hitter against lefties. So, and like you said, he's always under-owned. He probably is going to be under-owned against a pitcher like Casimir just because of the name. But if, like you said, you dig into the stats a little bit, he's not been that good over the past 3 or 4 games. So I like that. I like that play a lot. I like it for GPPs, and I don't even hate it for cash games today. So, but let's swing on over to the outfield. And do you know what today is?
I don't know what today is.
Today is National Kevin Kiermaier Day. Joe Madden finally got off his ass and is playing Kevin Kiermaier in the leadoff spot against the horrible Clay Buchholz. He's super cheap across the industry. I'm declaring today National Kevin Kiermaier Day.
All right. Buchholz is a guy that I was trying to figure out in my write-ups whether or not I should put him in there as a lower option or not. I ultimately decided that he's just not dependable enough. So I like that play a lot. Kiermaier finally getting the lead off again. It was gold earlier in the season when was it Jennings that was out, I believe?
Yeah, it was Jennings.
Yeah, and he was leading off, pretty consistently. Really like that play. It's a good value, and it should allow you to pay up at other spots. So
National Kevin Kiermaier Day. That's right. That is right. Buchholz has a 360 weighted on base against lefties this season. We didn't really get into too many of the lefties because there's really not a lot of lefties in this Tampa lineup. But I do like Kiermaier for sure. Batting leadoff, he's the man. So I'm going to take his baby blue eyes and I'm going to bat him in the leadoff spot. And I'm also going to look at Matt Joyce. We mentioned that there's not too many lefties in that lineup, but Matt Joyce and Kevin Kiermaier against Clay Buchholz, all the money.
All the money. All right. So, yeah, he's wearing his Red Sox shirt, his Red Sox hat, and he's saying, play the players against the Red Sox today.
That's right.
So
always.
That's a man that is giving you analysis based on stats and not his heart. So I'd say go for it. I like both plays, to be serious. I do like both plays. I think, you can plug a couple of guys in that lineup if you're targeting Buchholz. Like guys like Maloney and other who is it? Ben Zobrist. Sorry, completely brain fart there.
Zobrist actually is not in the lineup today, which shocked me.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, so I didn't mention him at second base, but yeah,
okay.
It's really today. It's Kiermaier, Joyce, and Loney, and the rest are righties.
Oh, so we praised Madden for a great lineup, and then I look at the lineup and I absolutely hate it.
No, I praised him for finally batting leadoff for Kiermaier. I didn't praise him for a good lineup because it's horrible looking.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, man, that is a bummer. You have the opportunity to really put Zobrist in a good spot, and a guy that's been carrying your team.
Yeah, you gotta give him a day off every once in a while.
Man, Longo, what happened to Longo, man? I don't get it. He's still hitting lefties. Don't get me wrong. He's crushing lefties still, but for whatever reason, he can't hit a righty. So.
Oh, when I drive through Tampa, that's all I ever hear. You listen to the local sports radio. It's why did the Buccaneers trade Tim Wright, and why is Longo sucking?
Yeah. All right. Well, who else do you like? Do you like Trumbo? That's another pretty cheap guy on FanDuel. I can't remember where he's at on DraftKings. What do you think about Trumbo today against De La Rosa?
Yeah, I don't hate that. Anytime he faces a lefty, he's a GPP option. La Rosa is actually better at cores than on the road, which is just blows my mind. So I think any of those Arizona righties are in play today. I don't even mind some of the lefties like Peralta. I just think today is a day that you can target La Rosa and be okay. He's just not one of the good pitchers. And speaking of outfielders that just mash. What about all these Baltimore outfielders? I don't care if it's a lefty or righty. Markakis, Adam Jones, Nelson Cruz, Delman Young, Steve Pearce, if he's in the lineup. I haven't checked it. Just any of these guys for me, against Nolasco, who has a 361 weighted on base against righties and a 400 weighted on base against lefties. I think they're all in play for me today.
Yeah, I think so too. Cruz is a little bit more volatile than a guy like Jones. So if I'm talking cash, I like to go Jones a little bit more often than Cruz. But Cruz also gives you the ability, he can hit 3 home runs in a game. So I think they're all in play. I think the Orioles as a whole are in play. I like some other outfielders better. I like guys like Stanton if you're not on Alex Wood. You got Rios, you got Puig, you got Trout. You got a ton of big name guys in pretty good spots. So I think you can actually fade the Orioles outfielders if you want to in cash games and play them in GPP mainly for me personally is kind of where I'm heading today with them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm a GPP guy, so when I start spitting out names, it's 90% of the time GPP plays. So don't hate on fading them in cash games today. You know who I do like for cash games today? Matt Holliday. Against the lefty Wood, Matt Holliday is starting to warm up at the plate. He's smashed lefties all season with a 381 weighted on base. So I'm all over Matt Holliday in cash games today.
Yeah, me too. I kind of say this every year, and I've got a couple buddies where they're like, "What's wrong with Matt Holliday? Oh man, he's not doing anything." And then at the end of the year, you look up and he's batting around 300 with a ton of home runs and a good amount of RBIs. He does it every year. He heats up in the second half, and he's already proven it. He had 6 home runs in total in the first half of the season. He's already got 9 since the All-Star break. 2 of them came last night. He gets a good matchup with Wood. I think. With Travis Wood, I think this is a great play. He's a consistent hitter where you can plug him in cash, and he's got the upside to hit you 2 doubles, a home run, whatever. I mean, he's good all around. I think he's going to be in just about every one of my lineups. I typically stay away from saying that about Cardinals unless I really feel like it's a good, solid play, and today is the day. So he's going to go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, throw them in chat. I think Matt Holliday is definitely not going to go for 4 with 4 strikeouts today. But if you guys have any questions, throw them in chat. Is there any value options in outfield you're looking at? I know we mentioned a bunch of the big names. Stanton against the lefty. I think he's in play. Holliday. We mentioned a bunch of big names. If you're going down in value, is there anybody you're looking at besides National Kevin Kiermaier Day?
Yeah, you got Kiermaier, Trumbo in certain spots. You got Colby Rasmus. I got to look at the lineup, but I think Colby Rasmus is a decent play against McCarthy.
Yeah, he's batting 7th.
I like him batting. Well, they bat him down there all the time, but he's more of a GPP type risky play with home run upside. So he's a cheaper guy.
What about, you mentioned, how you like the Rangers against lefties. What about Alex Rios, 3,500 on DraftKings, super cheap.
Yeah.
I think he's in play, batting 3rd for the Rangers today.
Yeah, if I didn't, I meant to mention him earlier. If I didn't, absolutely, Alex Rios is in play. I talked about it earlier. Surprisingly, if you look at the Rangers' stats, they're pretty good against lefties, and a big part of it is because Beltre and Rios absolutely crush left-handed pitching.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one other name that I'm going to throw out there is Ryan Braun and Chris Davis, so 2 other names. I like both of these guys today. I'm going GPP. I'm going a little off the board. I'm going contrarian. I'm targeting some of these Brewers' bats against Bumgarner. And Ryan Braun is 6 for 17 with 2 home runs in his career against Madison Bumgarner, so he has BVP in his favor. I'm leaning towards some of these guys, and I'm going contrarian with some of these Milwaukee bats.
I tell you what, the way you've been playing recently, I wouldn't question anything you say. To be honest.
Super hot.
You have been. You've been on fire, so I'm not going to question you at all.
All right. Well, I hope I can stay hot. We're going to get some of these questions in chat here. I got a question about the weather in Pittsburgh. neither one of us like the weather right now. You know, it's always able to change. It's just I'm not going too heavy in that game. I think I'm going to completely fade that game. You want to give your stance on it?
I'm going to completely fade it as well. I was only on the pitching. I really liked both. I don't think there's any chance you can roster them. Don't do that. Hitters, if you are playing them, only play them in GPPs where you're okay kind of taking a lot of risk. Do not play them in your cash games. Is because I think there's so many good options. You're not locked into guys like Todd Frazier today. So don't take them in your cash games, please.
Yeah, I'd rather have like a David Freese or a Martin Prado over Frazier today anyway. So I agree with you on that. Cash game question: Loney and Justin Turner or Baker and Freeman?
That's not even a question. That's Baker and Freeman for
Yeah,
me.
I agree with you 100%. Adam Jones or Nelson Cruz for cash games?
For cash games, I mentioned it. Adam Jones is more of a cash game play for me, and Nelson Cruz is the perfect GPP play.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Derek Jeter, old man Jeter is what it says. Value play versus J.A. Happ today, batting in the two spot.
Not unless there's a time machine. No, I mean, be honest, guys. If you look at his stats, he just isn't the same. I mean, even close to the same guy. I love Derek Jeter. I love the way he played out his career, the whole career in New York. I hate the Yankees. Can't stand them, but I love Derek Jeter. He's just not a DFS play anymore. There are too many other guys in his price range with better numbers. So I'm going to fade him the rest or the whole year. I haven't played him. I don't think I played him all year. Maybe in the beginning of the season to see what he was going to do, but for me, he's just complete fade.
Yeah, I haven't played him at all season, and I will continue not to play him at all. Another question we got: Any love for the Royals outfield tonight?
Yeah, I love the whole Royals team tonight, so that makes sense that, yeah, I like their outfield too.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's kind of tough on a site like DraftKings where you have the late swap. I think that's definitely in play. Somebody is saying Matt Holliday is out of the lineup. Waiting to see a lineup for them to see if that's
Oh,
true.
that hurts.
And it
He's batting
actually,
third.
yeah, I see Matt Holliday in the lineup, so that guy just got banned in chat. Um, Stevie, who's your first three across the line in Atlanta tonight? We're not going to get into NASCAR because I really haven't looked at it yet. Brandon Guyer, people are saying that he's 2 for 2 with 2 extra base hits. That's a very small sample size, but batting in the 2 spot, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's in play. I think anybody's in play against Buckholz. I don't like Buckholz, but at 2,800 on FanDuel, I don't know what his price is on DraftKings. I do like Guyer. I like anybody against Buckholz, let's be honest.
Mhm.
So here's another one. Negron for Cincy or Derek Jeter. I think I'm leaning. If I had to pick, I think I lean Derek Jeter in that one.
Yeah, believe it or not, I mean, well, believe it. I mean, I'm fading that game, so obviously I'm going to go with Jeter in that scenario.
Yeah,
Find somebody else other than Jeter,
yeah,
please.
I agree with you on that one. Nelson Cruz or Baptista? This sounds like a GPP question.
If it's GPP, um, I actually think I go Cruz because I think what's going to happen is Bautista with his 4 or 5 already in a row is going to be very heavily owned, and a lot of you guys like to follow Al and his logic with percentages owned versus failure rate. Bautista doesn't seem to be a guy you want in a GPP today because I think he's going to be overowned.
Yeah,
Overowned in the sense that a higher ownership.
I'm fading Joey. Except I have one Toronto stack in a GPP, so besides that, I am fading pretty much all of these Toronto bats. So, a question in chat: top stacks. Give me your top stack and give me your contrarian stack.
Would the Royals be a contrarian stack to you? I feel
I'll
like
give
they
it to
would
you.
be.
I'll give it to you.
Okay, I feel like they're a contrarian stack. I could see them doing a lot of damage. Top stack, I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to go with the Tigers today. It's funny because I haven't mentioned any of them, I don't believe. But they're the team that seem to do big damage the most often, I guess. You got guys like Davis, Kinsler, Hunter, Martinez. All those guys can go yard. All those guys can get you multiple base hits. All those guys can put them in the gap. So I'll go the Tigers. It's kind of funny because we didn't really mention them today.
Yeah, and Tigers are one of those positions where they're pretty much always in play. Um, I'm I'm going the Baltimore Orioles as my top stack today. We touched on a lot of these guys throughout the show. I am all over them, and my contrarian stack, you guys have already heard it throughout the show, is the Brew Crew. I'm gonna be targeting some of these Milwaukee bats against Bumgarner. I think they're gonna be super underowned, super contrarian today. I like them a lot. It's 12:32. Me and Andrew need to get to getting. Just one last question. We'll get through this real quick, and then we're going to get out of here. Give me your top three pitchers because a lot of people are asking about pitchers today.
For me, it's going to be, for me personally, Bumgarner, and then Wood, and then I'm torn, I guess. I don't really know where I want to go from there. There's a bunch of guys that we listed in the beginning of the show. I think what I'm going to do is try to get Bumgarner and Cobb where I can in every position that has two pitchers. So, did I say Wood? I meant to say Cobb if I said Wood.
You did.
I just thought about that. I meant Alex Cobb. Sorry, guys. He's my second pitcher. So,
Okay.
who do you got for your three?
My top guy today is Alex Cobb. I think I made that pretty clear that I don't like the Red Sox today. Going Alex Cobb, I'm going Bumgarner just because I think, the percentage owned for cash games today. I think Bumgarner is a safe play, and I'm going crazy. I'm going off the board. I'm going AJ Burnett as my number 3 today.
I'll give you a number 3. I'll give you Iwakuma as my number 3. I'm gonna go ahead and put my foot in the ground on that one. So
there you go. And we both like John Lackey. So if you want another option, John Lackey's in play. Do you have any final words for the millions and millions of people watching?
The millions and millions of people, go Cardinals.
All right, and I'm Stevie. He's LouiesCards. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you guys next weekend out in Vegas playing the basketball game where I'm dunking on LouiesCards. Don't worry about that. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.